Hey folks, Papa Boris here. In this video, I'm gonna play some games with a deck that I used to hit infinite this season in Marvel Snap. I was really excited to do that. I can't still quite believe I managed to actually pull it off. The deck is here. It's a Galactus deck, and I'm not gonna go through why all the cards are here. I wrote it all up in a guide on Reddit, and I'll post a link to that in the description. I don't want to talk strategy in this video just because that would be me talking into a menu for 30 minutes, which nobody wants. But what I want to do in this video to serve as a kind of companion to the guide I posted is just to play some games, because this is something that I think would have helped me when I was trying to learn other decks, is just seeing how someone who's actually played the deck up to a high ranking plays it correctly. There was one time when someone posted a guide on Reddit with a deck that I could actually make and that they got infinite with, and I was like, oh wow, this is great, I'm gonna gain cubes, and then I just hemorrhaged cubes for a while before I had to give it up because I had no idea what I was doing. So hopefully this helps some people, and if not, then I guess the videos just won't get any views, and that is also fine. So let's just go ahead and jump into a game. So one of the decisions you have to make with this deck is where to play your 1-drops if you get them. In this case, this is such a terrible location. You don't want to shuffle rocks into your deck because you really hope to get Galactus and Null and Ramp. In this game, we have our Ramp cards that would let us play Galactus earlier. We just need Galactus himself. So I don't want to put rocks into my deck to reduce the odds of that happening. In general, though, if this is a friendly location, I think it is probably best to put your 1-drops in the 3rd position. That way, if the 3rd position is something crappy, you can also play another 1-drop or a 2-drop there on turn 2 before it reveals its crappy self. And if this is a friendly location, which this is bad in the sense that it puts rocks in your deck and that sucks obviously, but you can play Galactus here, no problem. So if the first location is guaranteed to be a friendly location, then you want to save that one for Galactus if you can. Alright, so we got Galactus, and the second location is ongoing effects are doubled, which is really good for Null, because Null's strength is an ongoing effect. And then we got this. Okay, this is really, really bad. So this location, all cards must be played here. This really is bad for Galactus because I put a card here. So that's one of the disadvantages of putting your turn 1 play into an unrevealed location. So if this happens, then you have to hope you have waves, so you can try to play Galactus on turn 4. Otherwise, if this place is blocked, you can't play Galactus there. Obviously, if I hadn't put Yondu here, I could have put Galactus here on turn 5, and that's 5 as well. Now, normally when you play your ramp card, you want to snap. The thing is, you have to think carefully about that in case your opponent has arrow. This opponent, I actually don't know what they're doing. They're putting rocks into their deck on purpose, and they're playing discard. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan is. I don't know if discard decks typically run arrow or not. But we'll see. I mean, if the opponent plays arrow at this location on turn 4 off of my wave, then I will just retreat and lose 4 cubes, and that sucks. But I'm just kind of hoping, I guess, that they... Oh, hang on a second. This is actually interesting. So normally, with this deck, you don't have priority, but in this case, you can tell from the glowing nameplate I actually have priority. It was a tie, and I happened to win the tie break. So even if my opponent has arrow here, it doesn't actually matter. So the question is where to play Galactus, and I guess I'm just going to play it here, because the opponent has only one spot left in this location, and
kneel before Galactus.
That is very loud. And I'm just going to gamble that over the course of 2 turns, I can make up this strength difference. Alright, so this is actually a nice top deck here. Spider-Man. I would have probably just played Death here if I didn't have Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is nice for just such an occasion. I can block the opponent from playing a card here the next turn if they pass on this one. People often will pass if you play Galactus on turn 4, which is very rare for this deck, so it's kind of weird that this happened on my first game with this deck.
Spider-Man here.
I don't know what this person is doing. I don't know if they're a bot. I don't know if they have Agatha maybe. I don't know why they snapped. So this is a really unrepresentative game, obviously. But, yeah. I guess this is a good time to mention I am not editing the videos in any way. I'm just jumping in, playing whatever games happen, because I think that is important. It's important to show, like, what the retreat strategy is. Because, you know, that's the nature of Marvel Snap. You're not going to... Oh, yeah, maybe I should just turn that down. You're not going to win all your games. In fact, some decks make it to infinite without winning most of their games. Like a lot of people say on Reddit, it's one of the most often repeated nuggets of wisdom there. It's winning Marble Snap isn't about your deck as much as it is just about spending a lot of time playing the game and knowing when to snap and retreat. Okay, so this is one of the worst locations possible for this deck because this dramatically reduces your odds of drawing anything good. I actually managed to get 2 draws that weren't rocks, which is spectacular. And I guess I have ramp and I have null. So if I can beat the odds a little bit, I could get Galactus. Now in this position, you've got to resist the urge to put cards over in Nidavellir. You might think, oh, let's put them here. They get +5 power. And that way, you can build up null more if you drop Galactus. But the thing is, a key component of the strategy in this deck is to play against Arrow, which I explain in more detail in the written guide. You really need to make sure that you're playing around Arrow, and I'm all in on going anti-Arrow with this deck. Now, the only reason I played Electro here is because we got Dark Dimension, which was a very hostile location. This turns off both your ramp and Galactus himself, so I need to play Electro here in order to activate him, and I might as well play him in the location where he has bonus power. My opponent's playing Lockjaw Thanos, a very popular archetype. And I imagine it's getting even more popular now because someone posted a link on Reddit that was like some big tournament that was held, and the winner of the tournament was a Lockjaw Thanos deck, so I'm guessing that's why. So here we're going to make a bit of a weird play. Right now, I shockingly beat all the odds against Subterranea and actually top-decked into Galactus. So the main thing I'm worried about here is Arrow, and if I just snap and like play some random thing, my opponent is very likely to play Arrow here. People know what's up with Galactus. And I guess that's not true. That makes it sound like Galactus is like some bad archetype. I mean, a good player will know what you're playing no matter what you're playing, unless you're playing a pile of homebrewed garbage. Your opponent's going to know what you're playing pretty much no matter what you do. So, the opponent will know that you're playing Galactus. You should just expect it, and if there's a place that they can play Arrow to beat you with, then you can expect them to just play that. This was a really good play. I did not expect that at all. So my opponent countered Galactus by playing Arrow early, and it's a weird move. I don't know if that's actually a correct move. It's the first time this has ever happened to me. I don't think this is a correct move because you want to save Arrow for next time to play here so that Galactus gets shucked over here and turned off. But it happened to work out for my opponent that I did this. And at this point, I think I'm just going to concede. I don't want to go to 4 cubes next time. If my opponent hadn't snapped, I would have just seen what happens. Maybe there's some weird line with Spider-Man, although I doubt it. So, you know, this is funny. I played a game. I jump on here to play some games, and I get some extremely unrepresentative games. One person fills their deck with rocks, double snaps, and gives me 8 cubes, even though they're guaranteed to lose. And the second game is someone playing the most unorthodox Arrow play I've ever seen. But anyways, on to the third game. So here we have what is not a good hand for this deck. I have a ramp card, but Wave is the less good of the ramp cards I can get. You want Electro, and the reason is that Electro lets you play Doc Ock, Spider-Man, or Professor X on turn 4 to prevent that location from being arrowed on turn 5. And Wave lets you play Galactus, but it leaves you completely open to Arrow. So here, one of the reasons Daredevil's in the deck, in addition to just being a very famous combo with Professor X, which does sometimes let you steal some games, is that Daredevil lets you see if the opponent has Arrow on turn 5. So I'm not going to play Arrow now. I'm going to pass the turn here. You don't want to play Wave on turn 3 usually, even though I didn't follow my own advice in the first game. I played Arrow on 3 because of that weird situation. So now I'm going to play Wave. And it's a tricky situation here. So my opponent snapped, and generally speaking, you should probably just concede in this spot because you don't have Galactus in hand. The odds of drawing Galactus are very small. America Chavez is in the deck, so I have a 25% chance of drawing Galactus. That's not worth it to increase the stakes to 2 cubes. But since I'm infinite and I have a floor, I don't actually care about that. So I'm just going to snap I'm gonna not snap, but I'm gonna wait and see what happens. If I top deck Galactus, I can play him here and call it a day. All right, so my opponent's playing Shuri, which is great that I burned off Taskmaster. That dramatically reduces their power. Unfortunately, I did not draw Galactus. I drew Null. However, some interesting things can happen from here. My opponent's playing Arrow, and they have priority, because if the game ended right now, they would be winning. So my card that I play is going to end up here, which is a shame. I would have liked to play Death here. What I'm going to do is... Well, I gotta think about this. So the Arrow's gonna have 14 power. If I play Spider-Man here, I actually lose this location. Because this is going to be a 20 power location. I mean, I think I'm probably just lost here, but we'll play Death here. So now I am very tentatively winning this location, and I think it's time to concede because my opponent, yeah, because I can't beat the 11 power here. Even if I could, Sunspot grows just from passing, and my opponent can easily beat me here. So we'll just retreat. You should always click retreat later, by the way, just in case your opponent chooses to retreat or retreat later, so you don't throw cubes away. The only advantage of retreat versus retreat later is that it's instant, but people don't usually take that long to play their move, so I find it's worth it just to have that insurance against throwing cubes away for absolutely no reason. Okay, so that time we didn't get Galactus. Even if I had gotten Galactus, wouldn't have mattered because the opponent played Arrow to count in the spot that would counter Galactus. Okay, so here we have Galactus, but we don't have Ramp. This is the best situation to be in, because you only have 4 cards on your first turn. It's not often you're going to have Galactus, Null, and Ramp. So having Galactus and Null is nice because 2 of our remaining 8 cards are Ramp cards. It's 2 out of 7, really, because America Chavez is in the deck. So with 2 cards out of the 7, you know, and 3 chances to draw them, I'm in pretty good shape. So again, I am not following my own advice. I'm playing my 1-drop here instead of in the 3rd spot. And the reason for that is that this is hostile to Galactus, the Vault, because you play Galactus here on turn 5, then it closes and you can't play anything there on turn 6. Crucially, you need to be able to play your Null there. So this is very annoying. We again got Subterranea. I still don't think it's correct to play Wave on turn 3 here. Oh, Jesus Christ. I might as well let it build up. Let the board build up so that... Jesus Christ. Okay, I might as well let the board build up just in case it matters so that Null gets bigger. I guess I'm going to play Wave here. And I'll throw this rock down as well so that it helps Death get cheaper. I'm probably losing this game. It seems like the most likely thing to happen. Oh, there's Shuri. Okay. So now there is a chance things go okay. I'm actually winning priority. The main problem is that I actually don't know if the Shuri'd card is going to count for Galactus. Let's see. So Null is currently, well, not very large. What is this? 6, 9, 11, 13. So if Null is bigger than 13, that means the double value of that card is counted. Okay, that's really large. So I guess I do have a Null here. Now I'm actually praying to lose priority here. Crap, I won priority. This is bad because if my opponent has Shang-Chi, they're going to win. Now, you can try to dick around and make other plays to counter Shang-Chi. Like I could try to play Spider-Man and Yondu, playing around my opponent's Shang-Chi, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to drop the Null. If my opponent has Shang-Chi, they have Shang-Chi. I'll regret now playing Spider-Man and Yondu, but then I also think I would regret it more if my opponent just dropped like Magneto or some crap here, or even a Taskmaster. No, actually, no, I don't think Taskmaster would work because that card never flipped, so not Taskmaster, but if they just play like Red Skull here, for example, which they're likely to have, I'm going to regret that I didn't just drop my Null. All right, my opponent went for the double power She-Hulk, which is great. So I won because the Null was big enough. That's weird. So the She-Hulk got doubled, but it looked like the other card was also doubled. Hey, if you know this, tell me in the comments. So if someone plays a card face down after Shuri and Galactus goes off before the card flips, does Null get the power bonus? Because it looked like it did. Null was very large. It's possible, though, that that card was Red Skull, which raised Null's power by 15. and it wasn't doubled. It was just very big, a very big card to begin with. Okay, this hand is really not great because we have no Electro and no Galactus. It's possible, of course, to top deck them back to back. We're up against Thanos again, a very popular archetype. Okay, this is actually pretty good, this location. I could play Wave here, even though I actually don't have Galactus. The problem is that one of the stones is the Reality Stone, which changes the location. It's sort of like a Scarlet Witch effect. So if I do go hardcore trying to get this for the extra 2 cards, which would be amazing, there's a decent chance that my opponent will just play the Reality Stone there and change it. So I will let the Sleeping Dogs lie here and just leave that alone. Okay, so now we're on turn 4. Different story. This is now my last chance to top deck Galactus. So now I'll play the Wave. And if I top deck Galactus, I'll try to play him. Though, of course, my opponent might have Arrow. But that's one of the reasons that Daredevil's in the deck. Daredevil has a value besides the combo with Professor X. Which is to let you know if you're playing Wave that your opponent played Arrow. So you know not to play Galactus. My opponent chose to play Reality Stone at this location, which was the shuffle 3 rocks into your deck when you play a card here. I guess it actually does make sense that my opponent, with all these stones, would want to not have to draw rocks. Tragically, this didn't go off because the Soul Stone tamping down my cards prevented Sunspot from having any strength. It's actually really tragic because I didn't draw Galactus, so now I'm probably going to lose. But we'll see. If my opponent doesn't snap, I'll try to make the most of it. We do have Professor X here. So I could, I don't know, lock down a location. What is this, Magneto? Oh, Jesus. Okay, so is there any way that I win this game? I think there probably isn't. Even if I drop a death here, I'm still not actually beating Magneto because of the Soul Stone and because of the buff on Blue Marvel. Yeah, I think this is over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop a Doc Ock. This is my favorite thing to do, and I'm about to lose. Who knows what might happen? Let's just throw everything down. Leech. All right, yeah, Leech is a card that's very frustrating for this deck because it absolutely crushes you. It destroys Null. It stops Galactus. It stops Death from having a discount. And it's just a major problem. But I don't know how to really counter it. It's just one of those things you have to accept in life. Okay, well, I think we lose that one. Only lose 1 cube. And if my opponent had snapped, I probably would have stayed in just because I had Wave, just because I'm at infinite and it doesn't actually matter if I lose. But it probably would be correct to leave if you're trying to actually climb the ladder when your opponent snaps and you don't have Galactus. Okay, I don't know why I'm doing this. That's not important. Okay. On to the next game. Alright, so here we have not the greatest hand. Our inferior ramp card. No Galactus, no Null. Sunspot does give you some playability. It's one of the reasons the card is in the deck. Occasionally, you know, it grows really big because you pass a lot of turns and then, you know, you randomly win with it. Okay, so this is unfortunate. This is a fantastic location because it blocks Arrow since you play Galactus on 5. Tragically, I have Sunspot in the wrong spot. Here, what turn are we on? This is turn 3. I have my taskbar up blocking the turn count. Oh, there it is. I can see it now. Yeah, so I'm not going to play Wave there now. I don't have Daredevil. This is actually an argument for Psylocke in the deck instead of Wave for exactly this situation turn 4. I could play Daredevil and Psylocke and then play Galactus next turn. As it is, I just have to play the Wave here and hope that my opponent doesn't play Arrow. So normally when you play your ramp or when you play your Galactus, you need to snap. However, here I am not going to snap because... what the hell? Well, that's actually a good thing. I'm still not going to snap because the Lockjaw decks almost always run Leech, and my opponent, well, I don't know why my opponent put Lockjaw there, because now they can't play cards on Lockjaw. It's a little strange, but they could still have Leech, and if they play Leech, I will lose. So nothing for it but to play Galactus. Now, here, I am not going to retreat. I would also not retreat if I were climbing. Let me know in the comments if you think that's incorrect. Because if the opponent's snapping here, they know you're playing Galactus. Either they're YOLO dogging. Oh, they're Magneto countering Galactus. Jesus Christ. Well, that's a pretty cool play. Yes, Magneto, the somewhat more rare counter to Galactus. This deck actually doesn't have anything for that. The opponent can just go wild and always counter your Galactus with Magneto for all I can do. It's interesting actually. More people don't do that because it does work. This deck is all in on countering Arrow by blocking up a location, but Magneto will pull Electro and it also will pull Wave, so there's nothing I can do about that. It's just that Magneto, kind of like Leech, is a rare-ish card. At least people don't use it that way often. Also, it's worth noting that the only reason my opponent could play Magneto is because I played Wave. So that's the thing, is like, if I had Psylocke, my opponent would not have had the Magneto there on turn 5. By the way, I don't actually own Psylocke. I'm a free-to-play player. I don't have Psylocke, and I'm like so close to completing Series 3. I'm maybe a month away, that I don't want to, at this point, you know, get, pay 1,000 tokens to buy Psylocke. All right, we got one of the best locations for this deck. I mean, it's double-edged because your opponent obviously gets a bunch of stuff too, but this is fantastic. So I got my best ramp, Electro. So the thing about Electro is not only does Electro allow you to... Oh, you know, my opponent and I both made a really weird move. We both should have put Electro here on Murder World and have it be destroyed. It's possible that my opponent's actually also Galactus. Ebony Maw into Electro is a tell for Galactus. So I'm going to do a bit of a weird play here. Well, it's not that weird. Actually, this is not weird at all. So normally what I would do is I would play Doc Ock, but I'm already immune to Arrow because my opponent can't play Arrow here. So what I'm actually going to do here is just play Daredevil. This way, if my opponent plays Galactus, which I think he might, I will play Professor X right here and beat Galactus. Now, Sandman, I don't know if Sandman is a typical Galactus card. This could just be like a thing I don't know about, or it could be that the opponent's being creative and they're trying to do like an Electro Sandman ramp thing. Either way, I'm pretty fine with whatever happens. If the opponent just plays some big old card, I'm happy to just Galactus and blow it up. I do have Null, and thanks to my opponent's Ebony Maw, the Null's actually decently sized. What is this, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20? It's a 20 size Null. That should be enough to win. Although if my opponent plays a big thing here and then another big thing here, that can be bigger than a Null. So we'll see about that. My opponent is thinking, because, you know, they know that I have Daredevil. They did like a little emoji thing on it, so I'm curious what they end up doing. So what are we doing? We're playing a Sunspot here. Oh, that's very interesting. Sunspot. I don't think that changes anything. I think I'm still going to go here because the Sunspot will grow because of all the unspent energy, so I don't have priority, so I don't need to worry about Shang-Chi or anything like that. And I think I'm also going to counter Snap because... I mean, if the Galactus is revealed, my opponent's conceding anyway, so there's a chance that my opponent would just let it ride. But they retreated, which is fine. You might argue I would have been better off just playing Galactus, but again, there's no way that we were going to stick around to 4 cubes after the Galactus dropped, I don't think. The reason for that is that there was that location that drew us both 2 cards, so my opponent had to know that I was almost certain to have the Null to follow up with Galactus. Alright, this is a location that's hostile to Galactus, but it's not hostile to ramp, so I'm going to just play my 1-drop into it. This location is the reason why I like to play Sunspot over in the unrevealed, or any 1-drop in the unrevealed location to the right. It's because if this thing pops up later, it's very annoying if you already started building your colony here, and then this pops up in the 2nd or 3rd spot, and now that place is a place where the opponent can play Arrow and counter your stuff. Okay, so again, this is a situation where we do a little bit of something weird. Normally, in the Gamma Lab, you would play Electro, but the problem is that now there would be 2 places that my opponent can drop an Arrow into, and I can't cover them both. So I will play Electro there. And you might argue, well, but Boris, isn't that making it obvious that you're playing Galactus, that you're not making this obvious move? Like, yes, that does make it obvious, but the thing is, again, you should just assume that if you're playing any sort of a standard deck, that your opponent knows it. Like that your opponent knows within a couple of cards what you are playing. This is a very curious situation. So my opponent debris here, which does not prevent Galactus, but I didn't draw Galactus. So my opponent snapped, which means that if I were climbing ranks, I would concede here. However, since it doesn't actually matter, and I just want to see what happens. Oh, hey, my opponent's totally shutting down Galactus with the Green Goblin. Okay, that's pretty smart. Well, joke's on you, because I didn't actually get Galactus. I think even if this is just amazingly awesome, I'm still going to lose this game. Oh, right. I totally forgot about the symbiote thing. That was... I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. I lost this. Oh, actually, I drew Galactus. Well, that is a shame. The Green Goblin shuts me down. There's no real point sticking around here, I don't think. But, you know, it's not changing anything to go to the next round because I already stayed in after the snap. So, we'll see what happens. You never know. As the old saying goes in chess, no one ever won a game by resigning. So debris plus Green Goblin in the debris lane to shut down Galactus. That's pretty good stuff. Doctor Strange, that's curious. Maybe they were trying to dodge a Shang-Chi. Huh, that's funny. If I'd played Professor X here... Oh, I still would have lost because of Green Goblin. Okay, well, anyway, let's go ahead and retreat. This is a case where you could probably click the Retreat Now button. There's really no reason to stick around. My opponent's obviously not going to retreat, and now I'm just losing time for absolutely no reason. I mean, I could have played America Chavez there, but then, yeah, I still lose. It's pointless. Oh, God. And you can't change your mind for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why you can't change your mind from retreat later to retreat now. Yes, well, this is where I regret it. That was... Okay, thank God. My opponent actually made their move. Okay, so we're out of here. All right, next game. Okay, not a great hand. We have our inferior ramp, no null, and no Galactus. Now, we do have Limbo, which is an interesting location for Galactus because you actually can play Galactus here on turn 6, a raw Galactus without ramp. The main issue, of course, is that in this deck, because I have America Chavez, I can't top deck Galactus on 6. And if I have Galactus, I probably also have ramp. And so it doesn't actually matter. But still, I think I will leave that open. Let's put the Daredevil there to see what happens on turn 5. One thing to also keep in mind is that if Limbo gets destroyed, then it turns back into a 6-turn game, which can sometimes catch your opponent off guard. Okay, well, we got our best ramp card, Electro. My opponent's playing Patriot, which is good. A lot of times Patriot doesn't run things like Arrow and Leech. Unfortunately, I don't have Galactus, but let me think. So I could play Professor X here. It's not that great because this squirrel can continue to grow with things like Mystique, copying the Patriot. My opponent also has Khazar in his opening hand, so something like Khazar into Onslaught would make the squirrel beat Professor X. I'll play Sunspot here. It's a little weird, but I really don't think that the opponent has Arrow. So I mean, they're playing Spider-Man in their Patriot deck, so I guess who knows? Yeah, if my opponent arrows me, then, you know, okay, I didn't draw Galactus anyways. But if my opponent had played Arrow into here, I would have just been totally shocked. Okay, so it looks like this will actually be a real 7-turn game. My opponent's playing their Khazar and a Misty Knight. Okay, so this is going to be another 5-power here. What I'm going to do is try this. So this will mean that my opponent doesn't have a lot of room to work with. Just 2 more spots left, and we still have 2 turns left to play. This location doesn't have any buff cards, so if Onslaught drops here, it doesn't actually do anything. That's nice, because the... Okay, so this actually wasted the Mystique, and the Mr. Sinister, his clone gets boosted by Patriot, but he himself doesn't. Well, this is interesting. I could potentially hack together a win out of this bizarre situation where I didn't have Galactus. So mainly, I need to win here, and I also need to win in here. So What's my opponent likely to do? Well, this place has both Patriot and Khazar, so this is the place where my opponent would most likely play Onslaught. So that would raise this location's power by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a 16. Yeah, I think I still lose this, unfortunately. But oh man, it's so tempting. I want to find a way to win this, but the problem is, let's assume they play Onslaught here. I'd have to play something here, and then I also have to play something in this other location to win it. Okay, we'll try. We'll just try this. I could be wrong, but let's try this out. Oh man, my opponent played nothing. Crud. Well, that's unfortunate. Because had I played a Spider-Man here, then I could have actually won the game. As it is, Onslaught here is 7, 8, 9, 10 power up to 19. Shoot, I don't have enough power to take this over because I don't have another copy of America Chavez, unfortunately. Yeah, so I would have had to have played Spider-Man here last turn. Okay, well, the best power ratio I've got is either Wave or Khazar. Khazar actually is better because it also buffs Sunspot, and then Sunspot grows another 4. Okay, I'm not going to do the math. We'll just see what happens. So there's the Onslaught, I bet. Ultron. That's weird. That is a... I guess they didn't have Onslaught. Okay, wow. Well, you know, this is the fun thing about being infinite rank is you can stay in for those bad beats. It was probably correct for me to retreat there. But let's see, Onslaught. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and count the math. You can pause the video and count the math if Onslaught, his own 7 power, plus the extra buff on Khazar and Patriot onto the Squirrel, MVP Squirrel, if that was going to make a difference or not. Baroda. Wonder if this guy's first name is Ben. All right, so we have Null, which is good. But we don't have... Oh, there's Electro. Okay, so we have Electro and Null, so we want Galactus, the big man himself. Nowhere is an extremely hostile location for this deck because... Oh, Jesus Christ. This is actually... Okay, that's actually really good because it makes Null free. As long as no cards have died, it makes Null free to play, but then he still has this power, which makes his power relevant. So now I have a free Null, which is pretty cool. Do I want to play this early Electro? Feels kind of weird. Yeah, I need to do this actually, because if this is also a hostile location, I want to get my ramp up. Like if this is like Dark Dimension, cards here are not revealed till the end of the game, that sort of a thing, then I can't play ramp here and I can't play ramp here, so I have to play it here, and then there's no place for Galactus. Okay, so here, I think we just play Daredevil. That way I know on turn 5 if my opponent, or what my opponent's doing. And that is actually somewhat important because I actually can't play Doc Ock. So Doc Ock is what you play on turn 4 with Electro to block the location on your opponent's side so they can't arrow there. But Doc Ock's cost was raised to 6 by the peak. Now I got Professor X, which is good because this also works. Professor X, Spider-Man, and Doc Ock, they're all here to counter arrow. And I think I'm going to do it in case I top deck Galactus. You could make an argument for playing Yondu to try to make Null bigger, but I don't want to mess around with that. Okay, so this location giving +3 power to Sarah creates a problem for me because it actually makes my opponent win this location instead of losing it. So I'm probably going to lose this game, especially because I didn't top deck Galactus. Had I top decked Galactus, I would have been fine. It wouldn't have mattered that my opponent was winning, but because I don't have Galactus, I most likely lose. I can only play 1 card per turn. I'm honestly not even sure how this is going to work to possibly win this. If my opponent snaps, I will retreat on this one because I just don't even see what the out would be. So we've got Spider-Man here to tie that location, not even win it. And I don't know how I'm winning this. I just don't think that's possible. Yeah. That's it. That's all she wrote. Is there some way that I play Doc Ock and my opponent self-sabotages to the point of losing? I don't think so. All right, so we'll retreat, and I will retreat now instead of waiting because I don't think my opponent was going to retreat on that one. Kind of hard to win back this location and this one where I'm behind by 12. playing only a single card because I have Electro. Okay, this is a pretty good hand. So we have Daredevil and we have Galactus. Now, the main thing I would want is Null. Wave is not ideal. For Galactus, we want Electro better, but at least I have Daredevil on turn 5, so if my opponent plays Wave, I can just retreat instead of snapping and losing 2 cubes. Okay, so my opponent's going to see that I have Galactus, which is not good for me at all, so they know. It's a shame I didn't have Death in my hand. That one cool thing about Death is it's always the highest cost card in your hand, so whenever you... Oh, no, this is wrong. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Okay, sorry, bad commentary. My opponent got either Wave, Galactus, Doc Ock, or Yondu. And so I don't know what my opponent got. I was thinking of White Queen. White Queen is the card that has an on-reveal effect where you get the highest cost card in your hand, in your opponent's hand, and that would be Death. Okay, so my opponent just blew up my Null, and they know that they blew up my Null, so they know that my Galactus is a little bit impotent. Okay, so, I mean, I think we still just go on as planned. This is just a terrible situation. I'm not going to snap here. My Null's gone. My opponent knows that Null's gone. My opponent has a 0-cost 6-drop. And yes, I will get Galactus off probably, unless my opponent does the Magneto trick. But it's not a good situation. So it's nice having Daredevil here. I can wait to see what my opponent plays and then snap. Sometimes people just retreat. Like if you just have Daredevil and you wait to see what they play and then you snap, they just retreat sometimes. So I might steal a cube that way. It's possible I win with Galactus. Death is discounted currently by 2 because my opponent played a Yondu. And what was the other... Why is Death discounted by 2? Oh, I played a Yondu. My opponent played a Yondu. I'm a genius! Best YouTube commentary. Okay, so both of us played Yondus. So that's why Death is discounted by 2. So it's going to blow up 7, 8 more cards. So Death is 3. I will have Death, Chavez on the last turn. This is MODOK. Okay. So I think I will just play Galactus here. The on-reveal effects happen twice, don't help me. I don't have like on-reveal thingies, and Galactus is below Wolverine, so my opponent has priority, and I will snap to this because I like my situation. Even without Null, I have Death and Chavez. In fact, I can even do a weird play. I can do like Death and Shang-Chi to maybe kill whatever my opponent plays, and I still have Death as a backup if they play something big. Okay, so what are you blowing up? Mystique? What is that? Gila's gone? What? I don't get it. Oh, right. They must have gotten one of those off of the raft. I guess it was Gila? Okay, so my opponent just has 4 swarms in their hand is what they have. So there's no point in playing Shang-Chi. They're snapping. Oh my god, what is this? Why are they snapping? What do they draw? What do they draw that, like, are they draw Destroyer or something? Okay. Why would they snap? Well, okay, if they play 3 swarms, let's say, this is 9 plus 4 is 13. So I do still win with Shang-Chi and Death. I'll do this. If I lose 8 cubes because I'm a moron and I should have just gotten 6 more power from Chavez, then so be it. Okay, so they just had Chavez. So I would have won with Chavez or Shang-Chi. They both work, but this way is flashier. I only got this because of the Daily Bugle, giving me a copy of a card in my opponent's hand. My opponent had Shang-Chi, so I got Shang-Chi. So if I hadn't had Shang-Chi, I would have stayed in, just because I didn't understand what my opponent would have had that would have made them snap in a discard deck that's running MODOK. That was just a very weird snap. It might have been a bluff. It's possible that they bluffed, because they did Yondu my Null, so they knew I didn't have Null, so maybe they just bluffed. That, or maybe they actually thought that they were going to win with the free swarms. I'm not sure. It was an interesting situation. It's one of those things where I might want to watch the replay to see if I can figure out what my opponent might have been doing. It's a good idea in Marvel Snap to just always assume your opponent knows what they're doing, no matter what rank you're playing in. And if they ever don't, then the times that you like overthink things are still probably going to be worth it compared to the times where you actually outthink your opponent correctly. This is actually one of my favorite locations. Absolutely love this location. So it's really fantastic in this deck if you can get Doc Ock, because you can pull your opponent's hand here, and as long as you don't get like, you know, Professor X or something like that, you can blow up a bunch of their hand. It makes Death playable even if you don't get Galactus. It makes Null big even if you don't get Galactus. And it also blows up your own Electro, which by the way is why I played Yondu there. It's so that I can play the Electro here and they'll both blow up. Actually, it's really lucky that Yondu blew up Armor, because sometimes people will play Armor here and then stop it from working, which is super annoying, but this time it didn't happen. So if I had Galactus in my hand, I would snap. I just don't. I don't have Professor or Doc Ock either, which is the other great card I'd hope to have. But because Electro died, I can do this, and I can play Wave and Daredevil in the same turn and just see what my opponent does on turn 5. Again, I might, you know, top deck Galactus. I didn't. Professor X is actually also okay. It's a shame about the +2 cards in players' hands, because I could have actually dropped Professor X here and beaten this Shuri. We have an arrow. Okay, well, that's interesting. So this is a 14-point arrow. Can I beat it? I have to be careful with Sunspot growing. You have to keep that in mind as well. This is 17. It's 24. 4 plus 14 is 18. Plus the 1 extra is 19. Oh, yeah, maybe I do this. I think I just do that, and then I win this location. Oh, it's an 18 arrow? Oh, because it had +2 power already. Oh, well, that's bad then. That's really bad, because the Sunspot can grow to win this location for my opponent. Okay, yeah, I don't think I win this in any way at all, but let's see. So, say my opponent plays Taskmaster here. No, they have to be a little bit careful, because the Sunspot needs to grow by at least 3. Okay, this is one of those things where I'd probably retreat if I was trying to climb ranks, but just for education's sake, let's see what happens. Captain Marvel. Oh, that's a really good play. Okay, because the Captain Marvel's going to fly over to the bridge after the stuff blows up on the bridge. I forgot about Captain Marvel. I don't usually play around this card. And Captain Marvel can go there, of course, also. So my opponent wins those cubes. Yeah, I don't play around Captain Marvel usually. It's not a card you see super often, but good on my opponent on that one. Again, I think I would have retreated if I had been playing by myself, just trying to climb ranks, but I wanted to see what would happen. It's a weird system. I don't know why they do this, where like after you break 100, you can't fall below 100, because it just makes everybody play loose. Maybe it is on purpose. Maybe it is just so that like it introduces some fun into the game. Maybe people donate cubes more. So I guess there is some logic to it. As the season gets closer and closer to ending, people play more and more loose. So we got Asgard again. It would be nice to win this. I don't think I can. It's not that likely, especially since my opponent showed they're going to drop these Sentinels on that spot. This is a very hostile location. You can't play Ramp or Galactus there, because turns 1, 2, and 6 are not turns that you can play Ramp or Galactus. Now, there's a 50-50 chance that this place gets blown up. So my opponent's not going to get the cards either, which is fine. Once again, we have a suboptimal situation here. I have my inferior ramp card, so I can't protect Galactus from Arrow. My opponent probably knows I'm playing Galactus. If you want, you can run something other than Yondu. You can play like some random 1-drop or something, just to try to disguise your Galactus plays more. What I'm going to do here is I'm just not going to snap, because I'm pretty sure my opponent knows I'm playing Galactus and will play Arrow there, but for 1 cube, I'll stick around to find out. Okay, Hobgoblin. Yes, that's another way to counter Galactus. And here, well, I think we can pretty safely retreat, even without clicking retreat later, because it's just totally hopeless right now. It's very interesting, you know, I've been playing so much, and it was just like, in the 90s ranks, it was just like Arrow every single match, screwing over my Galactus. And now it's like all this creative stuff. We saw a Hobgoblin, we saw a Green Goblin, We saw a Magneto counter. I mean, we're really getting the whole works here. Okay, so we have a great hand, actually. We have Electro, our superior ramp card. We have Doc Ock to block Arrow and make Null get bigger. And then we have Galactus. So the only thing that we're missing is Null, which is okay. If you're missing one part of your operations, Null is the card that you want to be missing, because sometimes people retreat even if you don't have them. So now we got the Big House, which is a place you cannot play Galactus. But we got this place, which if my opponent doesn't drop an armor here, will destroy my Electro, which is nice. My opponent also played Electro. Well, let's do the Spider-Man thing. So, my opponent could just be playing Galactus as well. And Doc Ock is a really good card against that. In fact, I'm going to just play Doc Ock here, because he gets 15 power, plus 5 from Atlantis, and that will make Null bigger. The point is that if you Doc Ock someone who's got playing Galactus, it just completely screws him over pretty much no matter what. My opponent actually might be playing Doc Ock here himself. I have had double Doc Ocks happen many a hilarious and wonderful time. Magneto, Maw, Ronan the Accuser. You don't see that card every day. And a Shang-Chi to blow up my Doc Ock. And a Sandman. Okay, well, do I snap here? My opponent could play a dog and just, you know, go wild. Yeah, I'm gonna snap. I mean, the thing is, like, the thing you have to understand about snapping is, like, it's sort of like poker. Like, in poker, if you only bet when you have the very best possible hand, you're not gonna make any money playing poker. Snapping just has to be the kind of thing where it's like, as long as you win more often than you lose, if the situation were to be repeated many times, then it is correct to snap. So sure, if my opponent played dog here, I would lose this time, but in the long run, I would make more cubes than I lose by snapping. Like, you have to think about it like this. This is like the best thing that can happen for my deck, right? I had Electro, I Doc Ocked a huge hand out of my opponent, I got a gigantic freaking Null. Like, if I don't snap here, that means that I think my best case scenario is more likely to lose than it is to win. And if you're playing a deck where you think that the very best thing that can possibly happen loses more often than it wins, then you're playing a bad deck and you should play a different deck. But anyway, I'm out of time for today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something either from my explanations or from my stupidity and terrible mistakes. Have a lovely day, everybody, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.